Hello and welcome to Fact or Fiction on Sportuccino. My name is Richard Parr, and every single Monday on Sportuccino.com, on YouTube, on Periscope and on Facebook, we discuss the biggest sports stories of the weekend, mainly the English Premier League or anything else that is pressing or that I just want to talk about. And every single week I have an amazing sports journalist, influencer, or just someone from the world of sports and broadcast. And I've got a great guest for you today. I am delighted to say that joining me on Sportuccino today for his second appearance on the channel, it is of course the broadcaster Jonny Gould, live from Cote Brasserie. Jonny, welcome to the programme.
You have really picked a great guest today, Rich. I'm full of it. I am powered by Sportuccino coffee, and I'm ready for whatever you want to ask me, whether it be fact or fiction.
Nice mug there, Jonny. Not quite as good as this mug I've got in my hands, the Sportuccino mug, which you can get at sportuccino.com. People probably missed out on the Black Friday deal there, Jonny. But never mind.
Milk and one sugar, please, mate.
So let's get straight into a bit of fact or fiction, Jonny. It was, of course, a big weekend in the Premier League, and we're going to talk about the game I was at, but I'd like to get your opinions on it first. And it was between Liverpool and Brighton. It was 5-1 to Liverpool, Jonny. So we are saying today the 5-1 scoreline flattered Liverpool against Brighton. Jonny, is that fact or is that fiction?
I would say that is fiction. One of the echo chambers of modern social media is that Brighton will build their Premier League season on their home form. And all I can hope for Chris Hughton's men is that because of the welter of an obviously better side, Liverpool have better players than Brighton, that they don't kind of fold. You're looking at teams like Huddersfield, like Brighton, who've made really decent starts to the Premier League season. The winter's coming, they're starting to lose games 3, 4 and 5. Let's hope not. I saw Ian Wright comment on this on Match of the Day on Saturday night, saying that Liverpool were one of the best attacking sides in the world. No, they're not. They're not. I'd say possibly Manchester United are. Manchester City certainly are. Liverpool are beginning to develop a squad team. They press, but they are able to pick from a bigger squad than Brighton. I think Liverpool are a Champions League qualifying side, but it rather flattered them in the end, and Brighton really didn't have a response after they went 3-0 down.
I think that was right, Jonny. I was at the ground. There's actually quite a lovely story that being from Brighton, I've got a soft spot for Liverpool, and I missed a game when I was 11 years old because I had a concussion playing football after hitting my head on a frozen pitch. So 17 years later, it's nice to come full 14 years later, I can't do my maths. It was nice to come full circle and see the two teams, but not quite so nice to see a 5-1.
It must have been terrible concussion. You woke up supporting Brighton. That's what happened?
If only I could forget the previous 15 years, Jonny, of being at the Withdean and everything like that. At the moment, I'm glad I'm awake, apart from on Saturday. I think for me, Jonny, is 5-1 flatters Liverpool a little bit, but a 3-goal, when it was 3-0, that almost felt fair. I thought Liverpool were good going forwards. I still think Mane's their best player, and he didn't even play. I think that there is a frustration, I think, with Brighton fans at the moment, because there's almost the feeling of they know that they're not going to get much against Liverpool and Arsenal and Manchester United and Manchester City. And in fact, their future in the league doesn't depend on it. I think what people are getting frustrated at is because they don't feel they're going to win anything, Brighton may as well just go for it, and they're not going for it. They're just trying to defend. Liverpool had so much of the ball, and I think Brighton gave them too much respect, and I think the fans were a little bit frustrated by that when they think, you know, we've got nothing to lose here. Why don't we give it a go?
Look, the most important thing for a newly promoted side is to sing off the first season outside the bottom 3, and I think that's got to be Brighton's target. Chris Hughton is, for my money, a Premier League manager. He constantly achieves top of the championship performances, a great mechanic in the team. They work hard. And I just hope that in the transfer window, Tony Bloom supports him and maybe brings in a couple of faces to shore up Brighton in terms of experience. It's a long, hard winter ahead. Listen, Burnley went down in their first season in the Premier League, and they've come back really, really strong. And that's a real testament to their manager, Sean Dyche. And I think the same is for Chris Hughton. He has a great reputation in the game. I've got great respect for him as an individual, and I just hope that Brighton do stay up this season because, frankly, I think there may be a few more games where they ship 3 or 4 or 5 like this.
I think that could happen too, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Jonny, let's move on. Let's go on to our next topic on fact or fiction today. And
let's do it.
We are talking about next week's huge match between Manchester United and Manchester City. Manchester City needed a late goal from David Silva to beat West Ham 2-1. Manchester United, of course, had a 3-1 victory against Arsenal on Saturday night. City have now won 13 Premier League matches in a row. It equals Arsenal's record. So, Jonny, the question is, the statement is, Manchester City will break Arsenal's record and win 14 Premier League games in a row. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Ooh.
It's going to be a United draw or even a possible win. I just think that if there's a battle between 2 men in the City United game, it is the battle between the 2 managers. And Mourinho has this magnificent ability to get under Pep Guardiola's skin. And I'm looking forward to the gamesmanship because, like Bela Gutmann, the first great coach of world football back in the 60s, Jose Mourinho acknowledges that the game kicks off at the news conference. And Pep, you can see what kind of manager he is. He's so emotional and he lets that out of the bag so easily in a Kevin Keegan kind of way. Look at the way he really got to Nathan Redmond at the end of the game, basically coaching him like he was one of his own players. If I was the Southampton manager, I'd have been a bit furious with that. Leave my player alone. But Pep's one of those guys, isn't he? And Mourinho is so much more controlled. He's got a genius of nudging people, let's just say that. And for that reason, and for the way that United are really coming together in terms of mechanic in their team, match fitness, I think City will succumb. They're not in top form at the moment.
Yeah, I think one of the words I think about with Mourinho is he's ruthless. You know, he will put out a team to get whatever result he needs. And I don't think he necessarily needs to park the bus as say he would do against Liverpool, because I think there are frailties in that Manchester City defence. Even right at the end against West Ham, I think it was Sacco who had a big chance because of the just the weak defence that Manchester City have. They're great going forwards, but the one thing about Manchester City, Jonny, is I know Guardiola likes them to play a certain way, but they never seem to have like a plan B. It's just this belief that this one way will work. And will that one way work against Manchester United? I'm not quite so sure.
You know what? They're so well equipped and they have an immense way of playing them. The same way that his wonderful Barcelona team didn't have a plan B. They just had massive talent and they assaulted teams with their possession and their tiki-taka. That was beautiful. The greatest club side you'd say ever. And I think he's doing that with City, and I just love the way he sees, not just in his own players, but in opposition players, as that Redmond incident suggests, about how to get the best out of them. And he's made Sterling, for example, the potential for a Player of the Year award, you know, for either the player's player or the football writers, because he gets the guy to play in a way which is highly coached. That is his advantage. He is probably the best coach in the Premier League, if not the best manager. Definitely the best coach.
There was a nice interview actually in the pre-match build-up with Vincent Kompany, just echoing exactly what you said there, when he was saying the difference he's found with Guardiola more than anyone else is that a lot of managers think the top players know everything, but actually with Guardiola, he is coaching all the time, even the highest level players. And they showed a clip of him talking to David Silva, who's won World Cups and European Championships. And it's Vincent Kompany, who's won Premier League titles as well, saying he's learning all the time from Guardiola. You're completely right there, Jonny.
You never stop learning, and even someone as technically adept as Wayne Rooney will continue learning. He'll learn from Sam Allardyce, maybe one or two things he doesn't need to know. But the good thing about Rooney's career now is instead of having one manager like Fergie for so long, bit of Moyes, bit of Van Gaal and Mourinho, he's now learning from a slightly different level of manager, with all due respect to Sam and Ronald Koeman. And he's learning from upheaval at Everton. And I bring him up because, for me, he's the most schooled player in the Premier League. If there was ever an elite player who was underrated, it was Wayne Rooney. And that wonderful goal against West Ham from the halfway line rather demonstrated that he's just technically such an able player, but can still learn from whoever's coaching him.
Yeah, it's all about learning, Jonny, as we do every week on the Best in the World with Richard Parr podcast. Just thought I'd get a little cheeky plug in there. All right, let's move on. And we're going to talk about Watford drawing 1-1 with Spurs. Watford took the lead. Spurs got a goal back through Son Heung-min. And also Tottenham had Davinson Sanchez sent off for what appeared to be an arm in the face. So it finished 1-1, but the statement today is Watford deserved more than a point against Spurs. Fact or fiction, Jonny?
Fact. Tottenham are not the same as they were last season, but it's nothing to do with the players not performing at the same level. It is the delicate balance of being homeless. And White Hart Lane is torn to the ground while they rebuild this beautiful new Emirates-style stadium. That'll annoy them, upset them. And their home form at Wembley has disrupted their Premier League title ambitions. Make no mistake, if they'd stayed at White Hart Lane this year, I think Tottenham might be fighting toe-to-toe with Man City. The fact of the matter is, though, that their group of players, predominantly English, fair play to Pochettino on that basis, just can't have the guile and the ability and the experience to perform at a place that even the fans don't call home. It is being transmitted into the players. I remember at the end of last season, I went to a few Spurs home games at White Hart Lane, and they were disappointed that next year they thought their title challenge would be affected by being away from White Hart Lane. And guess what? There'll be another disruption next year as they try to get used to life at the new White Hart Lane, whatever they decide to call it, the I Road, Tottenham I Road, or new White Hart Lane. So I feel disappointed for Pochettino because he is the best Spurs manager since... This is the best Spurs team since Gazza and Gary. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mention the name of the stadium. Perhaps it could be the Coke Brasserie Stadium, Jonny.
My camera just fell over, so it was the shock of you just mentioning it. How's that for a camera angle?
There we go. You're back in action. Just quickly on Spurs, just to carry on from that, Jonny, is you mentioned all the talented players. You mentioned that they've really failed to succeed and they failed to win silverware. I find there's some parallels actually with the Belgium national side in the fact they're both glittering with really, really good players but are failing to win tournaments and trophies. Is there a cut-off point for some of these star players? Do they think, okay, we will wait until next season when we're in the new stadium and then we can finally win something? Or are we going to see some of these top-profile players, such as your Kane, such as your Ali's, thinking, I want to go somewhere to actually win a trophy before then?
Harry Kane, at some point, is going to have to address the real opportunity of playing for Real Madrid. And Pochettino is going to say to him, why go to Madrid when we're in this new beautiful stadium? You're in the best city in the world, in London. Why go to Madrid? Is that a greater platform? And Daniel Levy will say, yes, it is. I can get 140 million out of these boys. I got 86 million of my favourites out of Gareth Bale. And Luka Modric wasn't a bad transfer either. So he'll do a swap plus cash deal and get Harry out of the door. I think it would be a shame he stayed at Spurs too long. He might be a touch young now, but the guy's scoring goals for fun. He's got a World Cup coming up where he can really cement his reputation as the biggest and best in the world. That's if England can perform. And I just hope that Harry Kane stays injury-free and Real Madrid interest stays. I know that's disappointing for Spurs fans, but ultimately when Real Madrid come calling, Spurs are the biggest selling club in the world.
Yeah, Daniel Levy is very, very shrewd when it comes to transfers and business like that. And let's be honest, if Ronaldo was attracted enough to Real Madrid from a really impressive Manchester United side, I think anyone's going to want to join Real Madrid, including Harry Kane. Let's move on, Johnny. We are going to talk about Swansea. Another poor performance from them. Paul Clement getting under more pressure. So the statement is, it's time for Swansea to think about making a managerial change. Fact or fiction?
Sadly, that's fact. I would say fiction in any other decade. But this one, there is an obsession and a fear from Premier League boards everywhere to sack the manager because relegation is a real threat. And threat it is, financially so. Swansea City, like Stoke City before them, have developed a Premier League business which is producing amazing revenues, great community support. Swansea are a very old club. They don't necessarily come from a hotbed of British football. I was about to say English, but they are in a sense an English club in a way. But that doesn't mean anything to their fans who are just as passionate for the Swans as any Newcastle, Villa, Arsenal, Everton, Leicester fan, etc. And Paul Clement is a fall guy, unfortunately, sacked by Derby before. Carlo Ancelotti's great mate, so he might end up coaching one of the great club teams again as an assistant. But there is, of course, a ready-made replacement. He's Welsh, he's from the south, and his name is Tony Pulis. And he's one of those 5 elite managers who get jobs between December and February every year. And what do you know, he was just sacked, and Pardew was the other guy brought in to replace him. It really is a managerial merry-go-round, and Pulis is a ready-made replacement. I just hope, though, that Paul Clement can keep his job. Sadly, though, I don't think he will.
I don't think there's much more for me to add there, Johnny. Everything you said there was what was going through my mind, especially the managerial merry-go-round. I just wonder how much signing-on bonuses these managers get. It must be fantastic. They get sacked.
Must be. These guys are £3 or £4 million a year. Pulis needs it as well. He probably got a payoff by Albion, but he also lost that Crystal Palace lawsuit, didn't he? Which was near on £3.5 million. So he needs to keep earning. And, you know, what a great advert for the club shop he would be at Swansea at the very, very least.
Definitely. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Will Paul Clement still keep his job? Normally on Sportuccino, as soon as we mention someone who might get the sack, within the hour they do get the sack. So,
congratulations, Richard.
I don't want to say there's a connection there, but maybe. Let's move on to our final topic of the day, and we're talking about Eden Hazard. He scored twice in Chelsea's 3-1 win against Newcastle on Saturday, starting to build up a good relationship with Alvaro Morata up front. Of course, was really important in their title victory last season. So the statement, Johnny, is Eden Hazard is starting to show Player of the Year form. Fact or fiction?
Fact, but I wish it was fiction. Because there are other players out there who are performing more consistently than Eden Hazard, like Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City, like Raheem Sterling at Manchester City. And despite all that talk of him joining Barcelona, Felipe Coutinho at Liverpool, Eden Hazard might end up winning it. But that's because people think inside the box. They have decided that he's the best player in the Premier League when he might not necessarily be. So he's got to prove a lot more than he has done over the last 3 or 4 matches and show that he can do it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the feeling I had is he is showing that form. I think Mohamed Salah's got to be up there as well. Definitely. As a potential player of the year. I know we're only in December now and there's still a long way to go, but
the thing about Mohamed Salah is he actually looks like a Scouser anyway, doesn't he? All right, lad.
The words of Jonny Gould there.
You wish to have me on again?
I think we're not going to have quite so many viewers from Merseyside for next week's show, but never mind. Johnny, thank you so much for playing Fact or Fiction. Now, I want to talk to you about the book that you're involved with, Striker Boy. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Oh, well, thanks for mentioning that, Richard. Much appreciated to you. I'm part of a campaign in mental health for in remembrance of my cousin's husband, Johnny Zucker, who was a fantastic children's author. And he wrote a lovely book about football called Striker Boy. It's the story of a 13-year-old boy who pretends he's 17, signs for his boyhood club, Hatton Rangers, and attempts to save them from relegation, which is about the story of the bottom 10 clubs in the Premier League, isn't it? And it's absolutely wonderful. He's obviously a world-class youngster. He's 6 foot tall in a sort of Wayne Rooney 17-year-old kind of way. And the fact is that the author of this book, Johnny Zucker, loved his football. He took his own life 3 days before his 50th birthday. So it's the story of suicided men under the age of 50. We're raising money for Mind, the mental health charity. The book is $6.99. It's available at strikerboy.com. It's a great Christmas present, and it's for boys aged between 9 and 99. And every time you buy a book, £1.40 goes to the charity. So that's it, really. Thank you so much for the support on that.
Thank you, Johnny, and yeah, a really good cause, and I'll make sure I get a copy, and we'll also put a link to it so anyone who wants to buy it can also support it as well. A really great cause. And I believe you're doing the narration for the audiobook, right?
I read it, and I didn't make any mistakes, Richard. No. And I even got to do the tannoy announcements, which is a sort of job I've never done, but I'd really love to do.
Me and you too, John. I've always wanted to be the voice of Clapham Junction.
I was next to the stadium announcer at Everton against Liverpool once, and it was just after 9/11, and he had to make a very solemn announcement about what had just happened. And, you know, there was a tension in the crowd about 9/11, and the announcer's paper blew away just as he was reading it, and I managed to catch it and save his bacon.
Great job. Well, Johnny, that's a great story. It's been really fantastic to talk to you. Wonderful to learn about Striker Boy, and again, we'll put a link to that. It's a really important cause, and I haven't read it, but I'm sure it's a fantastic book.
By the way.
Pardon?
At Striker Boy Book on Twitter.
I'll make sure we retweet it and put the link and follow as well. Johnny, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you get back to your Coke Brasserie and your coffee, and we'll speak to you again soon. Thank you so much, Johnny.
It's a pleasure, Richard. Thanks, mate.
Really good to speak to Johnny on today's Sportuccino's Fact or Fiction. We've been live on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and of course, Sportuccino.com. You can go back and listen to all of the episodes as well as an audio podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher. Of course, we've got this amazing Sportuccino merch in the store as well at Sportuccino.com. The Best in the World podcast is out this Thursday, and I'll be back next Monday at 11 GMT for more Fact or Fiction. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. Goodbye for now.